Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. I'm your host, Cornell Wright, the People's Lobbyist. Today we're going to talk about democracy under attack. Now, democracy under attack, or DUA, is something everyone's hearing about. You may have heard people talk about our democracy's exposed, under attack, etc. Today I'm going to give you some guideposts, cousins, as to what that really means. Because it may be not really concrete to some cousins in regards to what that means or what the exposure is. Let me just give you some ideas to kind of help you put some parameters around this. So when you hear democracy under attack, you understand how significant that concept really is. Here's the opening position. We have a democracy in the United States of America ensured by the Constitution, which says that all people, we the people, have the opportunity of creating things in the preamble. We've talked about that in past episodes, right? But one of the constructs or underpinnings of that is having a land of laws or rules of law where rules and laws matter, if you will. Let's translate that over just a little bit over to law and order, which matters. Now, cousins, when you have law and order that matters, we can see it, right? We can feel it. We know in our hearts whether it's correct. So there have been times in which, let's be honest, we've all perhaps had the opportunity of being on the wrong side of the law. Let's just say, for example, driving a little too fast and a police officer pulls you over to have a conversation with you about that, right? It kind of goes on from there. It could be a jaywalk. It could be something relatively simple. But the point is the law being equitably distributed and utilized across everyone? That's the desire. That's the intent. And so to that point, we all say, yes, we want to have law and order as being our rule of the land. All right? When you have a dictatorship or an autocracy, you don't have that. You have what one person wants to the exclusion and not to the benefit of the rest of the people. All right, cousins? So let's think about that as a context. So law and order works when everyone wants law and order to work. You with me? Once you start getting elements of the society, and there are people who might be in power to not want law and order to work, then it starts to fall apart, and the lack of law and order is disorder. We start thinking about why young people are starting to have so many issues and why there's so much road rage and why there's people doing shootings and that sort of thing. And that's because those people, if you go back and look at the various news reports, those people are saying that, well, they didn't feel the society was working for them anymore. It wasn't equitable. It wasn't being fair. Now, cousins, we've all had a chance to see, and just let me use an example, and then I'll go back to some more specifics, of two major law and order issues that were confronted right in front of all of our faces, right? Let's talk about the impeachment of President Trump when he was president in regards to the conversation he had with the now famous and heroic president of the Ukraine, in which he basically asked him, I'm going to give you these weapons to be defensive use against Russia, but only if you're going to do me a favor, right? In addition to which, he had Rudy Giuliani, who was his personal attorney in the Ukraine, running around, allegedly trying to dig up or create some negative impact on Joe Biden and his family. Now, cousins, he was impeached. We all heard the evidence. We all heard the conversations. If you have your now think about this, you're president of the United States of America, perhaps the most powerful position in the entire world. You have the CIA, you have the FBI, you have some 18, 17, whatever number is, intelligence agencies working for your benefit. When it's something of value to the United States, and you have your own personal attorney, and then Congress decides, not the Congress, because the House of Representatives impeached him, but the Senate decides, oh no, that really wasn't an abuse of power. Come on, cousins, you know the deal. We all saw it. Phase two of the similar program. After he's no longer president, it turns out that after the January 6th insurrection, which we all saw on TV, We know that was not a casual walk through the Capitol. We know that was a violent attempt to overthrow the election results, i.e. a rebellion. We know that people got killed, i.e. the law enforcement people, to prevent those rioters from coming into the Capitol. They got killed. Okay, so what about taking care of law and order in that regard? You with me, cousins? And then we know that the president, some half hour, whatever beforehand, was telling them to go there and take it back. If that's not leadership and trying to take advantage of it, what is, cousins? Once again, we all saw it play out. The House of Representatives voted to impeach him. It comes to the Senate, and people were playing Scrabble, I don't know, whatever else they were doing, looking at their cell phones, not paying any attention, and all voted to not let it occur so that he was not impeached a second time. Cousins, we all saw this. Little kids saw this, all right? Little kids have a pretty binary way of looking at things. Is it or isn't it? And they said it is. So cousins, let me give you some ideas of how, in addition to these, our democracy is under attack. By the way, cousins, on that last little piece, as to how the president kind of negotiated around that, I'd be willing to bet you Vladimir Putin was very pleased with that one, okay? He'd be saying, my man, do it. So let me give you some guideposts, cousins, as to how you can start to identify and see when democracy is under attack. Is that when you see state legislators work in near unison in regards to changing laws as it relates to their elections in order to support a lie that there was fraud in the elections, which we all know from going down from the Attorney General, William Barr, appointed by President Trump, that this election was the best election perhaps the United States has ever had, in spite of, as documented, the Russian interference in 2016, the 2020 elections was the best we had. And in light of that, you have legislatures around the country then deciding that, well, hey, let's go and change those laws to make it, one, more difficult for people to vote, not engaged to support the electorate. And by the way, this other little piece that was slipped in that says if the legislature believes that there was something wrong with the election, they can change it themselves without going back to the people. Cousins, that's democracy under attack. When civics, the high school and junior high school course that I took as a younger person, and many people still have, which kind of gives a description about democracy, how our government works, and the role of what the electorate has in regards to producing and being informed and participating in that election, okay? When that is taken out of the curriculum so that we don't have any idea as to how the thing is supposed to work, we're all being pulled back and forth in regards to what our favorite news channel or news feed is telling us. Cousins, that's democracy under attack. As I just mentioned, when the impeachment of personal abuse of power is charged against the president, and we all heard the video call, not the video call, but the telephone call, in which, in my opinion, watching a whole bunch of gangster movies, that was a shakedown. I mean, what else do you call that, cousins? Democracy is under attack. When a Supreme Court justice's wife has been shown to be aligned with the January 6th insurrection at our Capitol. Notice we have three branches of government. There's the legislative, which is the Congress and the Senate. There's the judicial, which is the Supreme Court. And then there's the president, which is the executive office. We have one of those 9 people. His wife is alleged, not alleged, but pretty much been documented to be a part of the January 6th insurrection. Cousins, democracy is under attack. As I mentioned earlier, cousins, about the second impeachment, not one, but 2 impeachments, all right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Remember that whole thing, cousin? Yeah, how about that? The second impeachment associated with January 6th, as we start seeing the January 6th commission, there's becoming more and more evidence. It's like piling on, man. It's like no way that it wasn't understood and been a part of, and perhaps it had been a long term. And recognize there was a long-term run-up in which The President of the United States, once again, the most powerful man in the world, was talking about, oh, if I lose, it could only be because something was wrong. I'm sorry. You lost not only the popular vote, but the electoral vote because you lost, not because anything was wrong. But when the Senate gets to the impeachment, they said, no, we're not paying attention. And the answer is no. Democracy is under attack. Following up with that, cousins, when you have numerous candidates around the world, numerous candidates around the country soliciting the endorsement of one man who we know has asked for a personal pledge of allegiance, not to the Constitution, which is duty bound by every one of the positions people are running for, but to one man in order to get, I would assume, his endorsement. We don't know that for sure, but look at the trend, right? Democracy is under attack, cousins. Cousins, we're in a very complex world, perhaps more complex than the world's ever been in time. We have complex decisions we have to make, and I've talked about that in earlier episodes in regards to voting with your heart or voting with your mind. There's so many other factors that go into making a decision. We now know, because think about the Ukraine war, right? We heard about Russia, about how Vladimir Putin had shut down all of the communications and news channels except for one or two that are what? Providing exactly what he wants people to know about the Ukraine war. Don't believe that can't happen here in the United States, cousins. So that if you only listen to one news feed or one type of information, guess what, cousins? You're almost as bad as people in Russia, of which you're not going to get the entire picture. So if you're only listening to one news channel or one news feed, you're putting yourself, cousins, and our democracy under attack. When you have state legislatures working at night to come up with new legislations that are impacting the lives of their citizens in regards to abortion, in regards to taxes, in regards to education, regarding elections, etc., without the benefit of, let's be honest, the light of day for debate, for evaluation, for polls, for new information to be presented, that's the way dictatorships work. And in that case, democracies are under attack. We're in the congressional subpoena powers, cousins. Now, that's called law and order, right? When the judicial system calls you and says, hey, I want to come talk to you because of XYZ, you're involved with this, or we want to know what you know. And we have people who have repeatedly been able to say, no, I'm not going to show up. Cousins, they're obstructing justice, right? And if they get away with it, that's democracy under attack. Because if they get away with it for that, then why should I show up? But don't do that, cousins, because you and I, we go to jail. Okay? But that's democracy under attack. And so here's my last one, cousins. And this one I think is just like so blatant and so blind. Let's go back to those senators, Republican senators in the Senate. When Republican senators questioned the newly confirmed Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and by the way, you look at her qualifications, she is more qualified than anybody else sitting on the bench of the Supreme Court in regards to what she's done and her resume, etc. You look that up, cousins. It's awesome. Aside from which, she's been a public defender, which everybody knows. In fact, I talked to a buddy of mine. He's an attorney. She went to Harvard Law School. You ask anybody in Harvard Law School why they about becoming a public defender, their answer would be, why? Why? I'm sorry, I just went to Harvard. I went to one of the best law schools in the world, and you want me to what, be a public defender? Oh no, player. I'm out here doing major things. I'm gonna become a Supreme Court justice. Think about it. When those same senators asked her about her record of sentencing, discussing that she was gonna be soft on crime and not necessarily a law and order person. And these are the same senators who a few months back had just validated to not impeach Donald Trump, and they want to talk about, gee, she's soft on crime, and what, they aren't? Cousins, That's democracy under attack. You with me? So look, cousins, if our structures are not working for us, who has to fix this? We do. So I'm just giving you some of these items as being guidelines or guideposts to start to look at. So when you hear the current words, democracy under attack, look a little deeper in order to start to understand from your own perspective why that might be. Democracy is what? We the people, as in the Constitution preamble and the guidelines of this show. So you take care of your cousins, take care of yourself, cousins. That's what I meant to say. Brown Liquor. And you see you next week on Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
We are the people. We are the people.
Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas is intended for the participation of responsible adults of legal drinking age who wish to engage in substantive virtual discussions and social drinking for entertainment purposes only. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas does not advocate the abuse of alcoholic beverages. Choosing to participate in any of the drinking activities shared in the program should be made with moderation and caution and is the sole responsibility of the user.